All right, so Paige, let's get into it. What got you started in combat sports in general? Now, because you're transitioning over, but martial arts and in sport. Just give me your background.
Yeah, so I actually started into MMA. I went straight into MMA. I didn't do like a background in jiu-jitsu or boxing or anything like that. My family had moved from Oregon to Nevada, and I was actually a professional dancer as a kid. And when we moved to Nevada, there was no good dance studios that I really felt that fit what I was looking for. And I was a little bit burnt out. I had danced since I was like 2 years old. Yeah. So my parents convinced me to go try an MMA class because my dad was a really big fan of this guy named Ken Shamrock. And now I know he's like a legend. And he ended up being my very first coach. So I walked in, tried a class, and stuck with it.
Wow, that's crazy. So you went, it was in Vegas, correct?
No, in Reno, Nevada.
In Nevada.
Reno.
Okay, yeah. So you're close to Vegas, but like, so did you go to any fights then, or did you?
No, I had never been to a fight. Yeah. I had never been to a UFC fight until I signed to the UFC.
Gotcha.
And then my manager was like, "You have to go to a fight before you fight for the UFC." So
yeah, for sure. So okay, so dancing, that kind of makes sense because Dancing with the Stars, you kind of was like, oh, let me go back into it a little bit.
Yeah.
So the transition now, like, what did you feel like you took to MMA? Like, what was the best thing that you could take, right, from dancing? You know, because again, you have a large amount of coordination inside fighting. Did you think that kind of helped you catapult your career in some ways?
I definitely think it did, especially at a young age. I just picked it up really quickly. I feel like there's a lot of similarities between dance and like jiu-jitsu or even striking. It's learning the technique and the muscle memory and knowing your body and being able to feel and like pick up the moves from just seeing it. I definitely picked up fighting quickly, I feel like, because of dance. There was some habits I had to break, and I'm still working on breaking those. Just because I was in dance for so long and being in ballet forever, you're taught to stand tall and have your chin up, and breaking that habit, especially for striking, was hard.
How many fights did you have before you went to the UFC?
Four.
4 fights.
4 fights total. So I only had 1 amateur fight.
Wow.
And then I went straight pro.
So how old were you when you went to that MMA class?
I was 15.
Wow.
Yeah, 15 and when I first started.
That's
and I walked in and I had no intentions of fighting or becoming a fighter. I was just kind of training. It was fun.
Yeah.
I got into college when I was 16 years old, so I kind of figured I would go the academic route and have get a degree and figure out like some sort of business venture. Yeah. But by the time I was 18, I had 1 amateur fight, and I was like, oh, I really like this. And I was like, all right, let's do this. And then I went straight pro.
Nice.
Wow.
Well, okay, so now we get to Ken Shamrock's place, right? Were you the first female fighter to step into that gym? Because back then it wasn't a lot of females.
No, so back then,
in
especially because they're called the Lion's Den.
Yeah. And
they didn't really train women. So, but when I went, I was the only girl for a while, and a few girls came and went through the gym, but I can't recall very many. Yeah. But I only trained with Ken from ages like 15 to 17, I would say. And then he shut his gym down in Reno, so then I had to find somewhere else to train.
That's true. Okay, so what was the transition after that? I know you were at Team Alpha Male for a little bit.
Yeah, so I was at another small local gym in Reno. That's where I actually had my first pro fight out of. And then once I became a pro, I was like, oh, I need to I need to actually do this, like legitimately do it. I moved to Vegas for a year, but I was only 18, and in Vegas, especially at the time, and I think still to this day, a lot of athletes, when you're full-time in Vegas, you kind of gym hop. So you go here for your main MMA gym, and you go here for jiu-jitsu, and here for boxing. And me being so young, I really needed like a team around me. I wanted like that team aspect. And I had heard of Uriah Faber, and I heard about Team Alpha Male and knew that they were known for their smaller weight classes. They're having a lot of success. So I just up and moved to Sacramento.
What year was this?
I was 19 by the time I ended up at Team Alpha Male.
2000.
I have no idea. I'm 26 now.
Okay.
So.
All right. So I mean, a little bit ago. So it's like 7 years ago. So I would say it's the beginning of when The Ultimate Fighter was getting big, right?
Yep.
Did you feel like that was something like you were like, okay, I could see the UFC getting bigger? Did you want to pursue that? Like, that was the only goal, or were you like, I don't care, I just want to fight?
For me, it was just more about fighting. Honestly, I didn't really have my sights set on the UFC because I didn't think I was there yet. I had only had one amateur fight. I was 2-1 as a pro or something when I stepped into Team Alpha Male, and I was telling Uriah, like, all right, like, I'm a pro fighter, like, this is, I want to do this, and I want to become, like, successful, and he's like, okay, and, like, told me the classes I needed to show up at, and it wasn't long. I think I only had 1 or 2 more fights, maybe just 1 more fight. No. After I was at Team Alpha Male, I think I went straight to the UFC. I don't know. It was whatever the timeline was, but they definitely prepared me for the UFC.